problem.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And if you're watching us from World Flat Earth Association, yes, today we are broadcasting on our another group. Instead of Heliopsychosis, we are broadcasting on World Flat Earth Association and Flat Earth Research Network. So if you're watching us from there, welcome, and do tag your friends. And finally, if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com, rts.video, we have a huge community there too, and welcome everyone there. And yes, realtruthseekers.com, rts.video is one of our main sponsors for most of our productions, including this podcast. So do check out realtruthseekers.com. The shortest link is rts.video. So let's jump into our panelists today. And my first co-host, Gene, editor. Gene, how are you, brother?
Hey, Vikka, what's up? How you doing?
Awesome, brother.
Very
how
good.
You doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, bro. Doing great. Again, the week went by so fast. It's crazy, man. It's like faster than the satellites travel. You know, and by the way, that these satellites can travel up to 17,000 miles an hour, like the space station. And then there's 3 different kinds. We'll cover a whole bunch of stuff, hopefully. Who knows where this is going to go, but interesting topic, brother. Great pick, and very happy to be here. Welcome, everybody. If you're here for the first time, you're in the right spot. We're going to cover satellites and the craziness behind it, and the likeliness of what they really are and what they have been for a long time before satellites ever showed up. And yeah, good to see everybody. Thanks for being here, and Vikka, thanks for having me, brother. Pleasure to be here.
Oh yeah, Jeannie, absolutely. Welcome, brother. Oh yeah, the people, the majority think that everything we are using, every signal, every mobile has been doing or functioning is because of those satellites. Everything is going in a millisecond up there and coming back. So
Yeah.
we will rip it apart. So yes, and our next panelist is you all know him too. Some amazing monologues and admin and moderator of quite a few groups. And Keith, how are you, Keith, brother?
Hey, Vikka, doing real well. It's good to be here, guys. Looking forward to the show. This subject of satellites is a good one, simply because, once again, it's an observable reality that will debunk the fantasy story of the heliopsychosis that most people are living under. It's just such a simple thing, and it's amazing that you can ask somebody something so simple like, "Oh, if they're satellites, why don't we see them going between us and the moon?" You never do. You never will, unless it's on a balloon. That's when you'll see it. But other than that, we should see hundreds of satellites every night go between us and the moon. We never do. It's such a simple proof that satellites are a hoax, but there's many, many more, and I'm sure we'll cover most of them here tonight.
Oh yeah, brother, definitely. Welcome. And yeah, the comedy, that's the source. NASA is a source of genuine comedy, which includes, all it works and all its satellite stuff too. So we could have many podcasts, and there's so much to laugh about, about the satellites. So this is going to be one of them. So yes, and our final panelist for today, I think, is Harry. Harry, how are you, brother?
Hi, I'm okay. Thank you. How are you guys? How are all the audience? Thank you for hosting me here. And yeah, interesting topic tonight. And they have, NASA had two main partners. The Hollywood and Peter Disney, right? They're just pushing, these brainwashing, around the world. Those satellites. People ask me about satellites, if I believe in it, and I always say, yeah, there is a lot of light towers on the oceans, and they have antennas, and every 5 miles or every 3 miles you have an antenna, right? And people think they are satellites. I have a question: how Nixon talked to the astronauts in the moon with the landline? You know what I mean? If today, having every 3 miles or every 2.5 miles, a kind of cell tower, we've already have, connection, and that time, it's crazy, it's amazing, how people, are believing those lies. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
That phone call went from Washington D.C. to Maryland to Texas to Australia to the Pacific to the moon. And the moon was 33% full when that happened. Interesting stuff.
With the power of a Game Boy.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the thing, right? The people will believe that BS, but they won't look into the real science, how communications work, right? If Nixon, he called by a telephone line, and as you say, Gene, how many countries pass through and go to the moon? The telephone communication worked on copper wires. Okay.
100%. If not, they might have had fiber optics, but that's either way, it was one or the other.
Fiber optic is too far too, but yeah, you need a physical line. There was no
right.
Exactly, because the phone communication was not working wireless at that time.
Do you remember the Russia satellites that caused a lot of convulsion? Yeah, the Sputnik. People,
1957.
People actually were saying down streets, I saw it, I heard it, and there's radiation coming from the sky, generated psychosis, right?
Yeah, it's true, because the people want to believe in something like this because they think the human race is evolving, even if they are making up BS. But people are there putting all the energy. Wow, look at the evolution is happening with the humans. We are progressing. We are even if it's always failing. Same like those fake rocket launches. They're always failing and blast and all this. But it's enough for people to just have pumped up for nothing, right?
Yeah, Vikka, and the failures that they have, the timing of the failures are spectacular. And then you have the successes like James Webb and Parker Space Probe flying into the sun and stuff like that. So it's very comical.
Yeah, but it is also utter rubbish because of because sending and receiving image or voice or files, it's all work on the same principles of signals. And what are signals? Signals are electromagnetic radiation. So every communication, be it through wire, through fiber optic, to deep sea cable, through the towers, through the Satellon, through the dishes, everything is just doing the same job, but it's on different frequencies. That's the only difference. So even if you could include the radar and the sonar, it's all just moving those electromagnetic radiation to the waves to, and you need an atmosphere and everything. So everything is interdependent on the atmosphere and these electromagnetic signals and radiation that's going vice versa everywhere and creating this network of anything you could call, of radio, of satellite, or the satellite dish. I mean, not satellite, the dish, right? So
Dishes.
yeah, so it's the same thing. That's what it's very important for the people to understand. That is what is happening, because that's once we understand all the technologies they have been using and how it's only possible on a flat realm with the atmosphere, right? And they talk about having sending images and videos through vacuum of space. It's not happening. So that's what we're going to be going in a bit of depth of how these technologies work, right? Because when we think of internet, yeah, it's quite an incredible technology, right?
Yeah.
Like we also have images in our mind, what we obtain from the kid, like, because they told us also from also very young about this satellite BS, right? They show in the movies, they put it everywhere, they can. Yeah.
If you notice the difference between the broadcast they did from the moon and like a news broadcast from the street right now today, the equipment they need to do a broadcast there's a tremendous amount of, it's like a entire van full of equipment to do a broadcast.
Exactly, yeah, with those dishes and everything, with the whole,
yeah, and then the whole inside of the van is just loaded with computed software and chips and everything else that it needs to make this function. So, just pointing that out. Big difference.
Exactly, yeah. Like, yeah, the CNN and most of these broadcast channels, when they are there, they just really like hype it up with all their vans and all their
big antennas sticking off the top,
and it's like, what are your satellites used for then, right? So the thing is, how is the whole world connected to the internet? Like, so the most believe that maybe there are satellites floating up there. Like, first we need to know how telecommunications and the internet works. Like the reality, and it can be verified, is that all countries in different continents are connected through internet submarine fiber optic cables, right?
Yeah, and that's not a secret either. The ships that they do that stuff with are really amazing. Really amazing, like 100-foot spool of cable. And
that's
from like Maine to South America. They're out there. They know how to fix them. They know how to join them if something happens. It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, because it's a evolved technology from at least 100 years.
Sure.
That's why.
Yeah. They even had wireless telegraphs in Marconi back in I don't forget, 87 or something like that. They were working with that stuff, but they had communications way before that.
Right. Like, for example, most of us now experience the internet, like through Wi-Fi, the phone data plans, like the system eventually connect with like physical cables that like rapidly carries information across the ocean. Like, so the information can be voice, can be files, can be video, can be streaming, all is data, right? And if we go back a bit, like the countries began to connect with cables since the 19th century. Like the first transatlantic cable was completed in 1858
Right.
to connect United States and Great Britain. Like the Queen Victoria inaugurated the occasion with a message to the president, like, and to James Buchan, that took 16 hours to transmit. 16 hours.
Wow.
Transatlantic, and it's just the information that is going through a cable, right? Like it was a revolutionary event in that of communication, like beyond the ocean, that became possible. Although the communication system at that time was telegraph, so they were using telegraph and using those cables. The first real overseas communication through a cable.
That's insane. 16 hours. What powered that? How did that get powered, Vikka? Do you know? Battery? Was it AC or DC? Had to be AC, no?
It was definitely I think the copper. So if it's copper, there has to be electricity involved, to pump up the signal to reach, because
right.
the
electricity doesn't just travel forever. It's like light. You're gonna lose it if you got a 100-foot cord versus a 500-foot cord and a saw on either end. You're gonna notice the difference in the two.
Exactly, because this is the thing. That's why they need a bit of electricity in the copper wires, so that the signal don't get lost after a distance.
Right.
So that's why they need, and that's why they are going more to fiber optics, because it's not the same. You have many more frequencies to use. We will go a bit in detail about that.
Cool.
About how exactly what the cables does. Like, for example, nearly 2 billion kilometers are deployed around the world. The fiber optics
That's crazy.
is the backbone of today's most advanced telecommunication network. The fiber is assembled into optical cable that link continents, cities, and neighborhoods around the plane, with this like a thin, flexible strand of ultra pure glass, is capable of carrying voice, data, and video information in the form of light signals, like at a very high speed,
Yeah, well, they say light is 186,000 miles a second. That's the speed they're giving light.
That's why they evolved to that one too. Like the information in the form of light signals at a very high speed, like directly to the home, like different countries.
At that speed, you could circle the world like 20 times a second or something crazy. Versus the satellites and the ISS at 17,000 miles takes 90 minutes to circumnavigate.
Oh yeah, and this fiber optic, even on the landlines of fiber optics, is being used a lot, but it's not the majority. The majority of the communication and telecommunication that's go through LAN, which reach to the servers or to the Wi-Fi towers, are still the majority are copper, still copper. So. That's why the DSL, the ADSL, the people who have the computer, the internet connection, the house connections, is the majority is to the telephone line, is because of that, and the difference between the ADSL and symmetric DSL is different, because The ADSL is for downloading. The majority is for downloading and a bit for uploading. And if you have a symmetric DSL, you have a much bandwidth for uploading than downloading. So it also, that's the difference between the two. Because internet data travels over cable, like over a cable TV wire too, or a phone line. Like before, even the phone line and the internet, we remember the internet speed we had in the early time, like 56K dial-up, because we were using those copper cables for that internet too.
So the copper wires are that much slower? Is that why the dial-up was so much slower?
Yeah, that's why, because it doesn't have for so many different frequencies as fiber optics,
Right.
to work with the.
It's a lot more limited. So I'm just thinking about that conversation they had from the moon to the White House that has zero delay in time, just like we're talking right now. There was zero delay. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really insane. How they are deciding, the majority of the people, vying to everyone. But they're sponsored by, TV shows and movies, and the people sometimes they use, aerostatic balloons, in order to transmit from there as well. And Google Earth are using airplanes. And by the world, if you go to the word airplane, it's because it's it's on the air, but it's on a plane, a planet. You know what I mean? Airplane, plane.
Truth in plain sight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So be it cable, be it copper cable, or be it fiber optics, so what it works like, it's like a tube, it's like an empty tube, and the data packets are sent through this cable. It's like in form of information, using different frequencies. So they can be kept separate. From phone call is another frequency, the internet is one frequency, the cable TV is another frequency. So if there is another, they can use like for the FM. So it's many different ways of using this. This, how do you say, cables? It's a way. It's in reality, it's a physical connection, right? It's right there, which is connecting different countries and continents, right?
I have a question. If supposedly they have thousands of satellites orbit, the globe, how comes that there is no accident? No, because there's a lot of traffic.
They say that there's a navigation system on them, and they use I forget what they call it, but there's a way that they can steer themselves out of the way of danger. I swear that they say this stuff. If you look it up, this is what they're trying to say. That they have ways to detect it all, and they can, and keep in mind there's no aerodynamics up there, but they're using aerodynamics to steer satellites in orbit first of all, and then out of the way if anything should happen to be detected. It's out of control. The story is just insane. It's a lot of Disneyland involved right here, guys.
Oh yeah, as Keith also mentioned, like, why don't we see them? You should see them, most of them, and how they are controlling this. Where are the centers where they control literally the thousands? They are saying that it's controlling these satellites, right?
No,
That's where is the.
They're probably saying that they program them, and there's very little to do after that. Oh, they're programmed, so they know what to do. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
I had
Good
a guy.
Excuse.
Yeah. I had a guy tell me once that planes naturally follow the curve of the Earth. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah.
Planes don't naturally do anything. Fly.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
aviation. Aviation is a whole topic in itself to how it works, and we know it's not compensating for any curvature. So after that telegraph cable, in 1866, the transatlantic submarine cable was completed, and the submarine cable network in the world gradually expanded. Like the following year saw the laying of more cables connecting more countries and continents to each other. So in 1876, like the telephone was invented and dramatically expanded as a method of communication after the telegraph. That was the second communication which evolved, right?
Yeah, but the first telephone was useless. It was the second telephone that was the moneymaker.
It was reinvented because, although humanities before us, they had much more advanced, phones than we have today. Even, I'm talking about thousands of years ago, right?
Oh yeah, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So everything is, nobody can claim to the real credit of anything, because there's always taking from somewhere else. And especially we also spoke about in the Tesla thing, right? Even Macron used his patent stuff and many other people, and he didn't care. But who know where everything came from and from where even Tesla took. But he worked it out at least. So yeah, we had that amazing podcast about Tesla.
That was a good one.
Do you think Tesla existed, or it's just a way to confuse even more people?
Both.
Yeah, in a way. So in 1891, the world's first submarine telephone cable was built in the English Channel. Like while laying a transatlantic telephone cable, was seriously considered as early as in 1920. Like the technology needed for the economically viable telecommunications was not developed until 1940s. So we are seeing the timeline, So we're speaking about 80 years, right? 60, 80 years. It's not that far, and now they are reaching to the, to the farthest planet and sending the most high quality images and video. Right, yeah.
That's a good point, Vikka. I was just thinking that, the first time they ever flew a plane was in 1903, and 65 years later, they landed a rocket on the moon, supposedly, right? The timeline is incredible of these events and things from the beginning to the advancements. This is just what they show us too, though.
Oh yeah, they just from nowhere, they don't have anything, and suddenly they are like, wow, in the highest peak of technology, and then again they destroy it by themselves. So
what?
Right.
What is a strange, luminary of star or something moving on the air? I'd say, there's a satellite, right? Instead of saying maybe it's a multidimensional shift, whatever. But no, there is a satellite, so unfortunately.
Oh yeah, but the how you say, the flying technology is much more advanced, right now. You have drones, you have automated drones, solar planes, spy planes, and planes that could be weeks and months, and drones can just be in the sky for weeks, months, and can be programmed. So could be anything, and they would say it's satellite, because we also discussed in one of our podcasts about in the ISS podcast, like how these, when they are tracking the ISS, it's actually planes that are passing by, because it just moves and behaves like a same plane at the same altitude. You just see a light passing by, and everybody's like, it's ISS. It could be any drone, a plane, whatever, right?
Yeah, I've seen that. You know, what I wonder about is what lights it up. Why is it lit up at night? Is it really? Do they have lights on the outside of that thing lighting it up?
No, they're lighting it up purposely because
Exactly.
that it
It's
looks
just
that the people don't see what it is, but it sounds even like a plane. So
exactly what I'm getting at. Why would they light it up? It's just for special effects. There's no reason for them to have lights on the outside. There's more junk to fix. You never see any fixing things on the inside of the space station. Right? It's all on the outside. Funny.
oh yeah, and also yeah. Go ahead, Harry.
So you remember the Skylab back in the 70s or 80s? Remember? 80s, I guess, right?
What's that?
The Skylab.
Oh yeah, Skylab. That was the
You know,
original. That was the original space station, right?
Yeah, the mirror, the mirror, and the yeah.
Yeah.
I was crying because they say it's falling down or maybe it will hit any city. I remember I was traumatized by it and I was crying. You know, my parents tried to calm me down, you know, because saying they have a problem in there and the Skylab is falling down. I remember I was crying. I was really worried about it.
Yeah, I remember that story. They weren't sure what to do with it, how they were going to take it out, because it was taken out of commission. I don't remember what they did with it though. Dumped it in the satellite graveyard in the South Pacific.
Well, yeah, they worked it out somehow, you know, to convince the people that there is something there, you know. So even the first Skylab or the mirror station or all these, even that could be the same part of the CGI that, you know. So what they were showing. So in 1956, the first transoceanic cable, like TAT-1, was laid, like, you know, that could carry 36 calls at a time, and also contained like a direct line from Moscow to Washington D.C. And in the 1960s, they already had the idea of being able to connect computers to each other.
Were we like at war with them at that time though? Why would they have a direct line in the middle of a war?
Ask them.
Hold on a second.
The red line, right? The red line.
Oh man, was it like got smart? Was it on a shoe also? That's crazy.
And yeah, then in 1964, like the first trans-Pacific submarine cable, like TPC-1, was built, and after that, many other trans-Pacific submarine cables were built continuously. And in 1965, two computers were first connected over a long distance, like one in Massachusetts and the other one in California, by a telephone line. Like that's how the internet was born, connecting the two computers through that telephone line.
Wow, 65?
Yes.
4 years later, they're going to the moon. This stuff is crazy.
Exactly. And in 1969, the United States created a military network called ARPANET.
Called what? Which one?
ARPANET.
Oh,
ARPANET. Have to do with something like American blah 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 net, you know.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, ARPANET.
Yeah, connecting the dots. You know, in '58 they made the Antarctic Treaty as well.
Nice catch. Yeah, exactly. So in this ARPANET, which at the beginning was only 4 computers connected in different universities, but 2 years later there were already 40. So that's how as the network of wire network continue to grow, like by the means of telephone line.
It's like the jumps that evolution takes, bro. Timelines are insane.
Oh yeah.
So you got to think that just everything before, whatever comes out, there was 10 things before it, 25 years before that set it all up. Everything, it's and everything they do has got 10 things behind what its main function is. It's got 10 other main functions they don't all talk about. It's pretty nuts.
Exactly.
I think just in the last couple of years, Google and Facebook both have reportedly laid thousands and thousands of miles of cable under the sea. And you'd think in 2021, 2022, they would just partner with FakeX and Elon Musk, the paid actor, say, hey, put some satellites up there for us. And they have more than enough money, but they're still laying cables in 2021, 2022, thousands of miles at a time, because there are no satellites. And I think one of the other real simple proofs is a satellite phone. I was watching one of those TV shows about stranded or alone, or some guy, out in the wilderness all by himself.
That was Survivor Man, Les Stroud in Romania.
Yeah, and he had like 2 or 3 satellite phones and could not get signal on any of them.
Yep.
So if they're satellites, you should never be without signal. But yet he had three phones, I believe it was, could not get any signal on any of them. Why? Because there are no satellites. Those phones might be a lot stronger than the phone I'm holding in my hand, and they may be able to reach towers that are a little bit further away, but those phones are still working through ground-based towers.
Exactly, brother. Because it's just a much high-tech gear, but it's using the same technology of towers. And maybe now they have a better coverage because of the Satellons, but it's the same thing. It's bouncing the same signals in different directions, or through towers, or through Satellons, or because the Satellons are supposed to be the same thing. They are flying towers. That's all. Nothing else with the balloon. They're not satellites. No, they're doing the same job what a tower does. It's just receiving this signal from the servers and sending it ahead wherever it needs to go. Right.
Yep. Catches from behind, sends it ahead, and back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is the thing. Also, as you said, Keith, the Google, Facebook, Microsoft, the majority of the biggest Silicon Valley people, they all have this infrastructure for these cables, and billions they are spending. In billions, they are spending to make these cables work, because the old ones are not working anymore, and the new ones are much more high speed data transfer too. So.
Well, it costs like between 10 million and 400 million to launch a satellite. So that could be where the money's coming from. Because that's crazy. That I don't care what they got, what they're flying, but that's not what they're spending on these things. So in other words, they'll say it's worth 40 million, but meanwhile it's worth like $400, right? And then it's a big wash with these people. They know what they're doing.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Harry.
So, all of us, every single human being is so important for them, because they're spending millions and trillions and infinite sums of money on lying to us, right? So it means we are so important for them. Why we are so important? That's the question.
Yeah, but this is the thing. We are important because without us, they are nothing in the end. Whom they're going to control, whom they're going to manipulate, whom they're going to indoctrinate. So the people don't understand that, right? This is just a bit of off topic, but this is the thing. Everything that's happening in the world, they cannot just extinguish everybody, because if they extinguish everybody, they have nothing to control or nobody to control. So it's like they don't kill you, they kill you slowly. to everybody. It's like that. So that's what they're doing with the humanity. So they don't really. They're they're all the technologies. They looks like they're giving it to people, but it's in the end, it's for their own agenda. Because we know all the social media, all this communication is also a way to control everything much more easier than the old times. To control what a person or whoever is doing, or an organization or whatever, like doing something. It was very difficult. You have to physically go and investigate and see who the fuck what they are doing. Sorry for that word, but you know what I mean. So with this new technology and everything, be it any social media, starting from WhatsApp to whatever we are using today and whatever is going to come, and all the the face scanning app and whatever, the voice recognition, everything, and the thing they're trying to sell us through. We know, we don't even, I don't even want to go in that, but we know how the Facebook and Google works. Like, you just need to think about a product, and it shows you the product, the ad for the product. The technology is so advanced, these communications we have gone through. You can't believe it. It's
I've had that happen. Yeah. Not a lot, but definitely had it happen. And then when you say something, they're all over you. So that's that's on, you want to try and deny that one, go right ahead. But no, but the thought one is really, really strange.
Oh yeah. They have technology of using these frequencies on us, and literally, like, how the hell is
Yeah.
it possible? You have the freaking mobile phone in your hand, or around you, or even if you're not touching it and you're thinking, okay, maybe I'm gonna, I need this, or I want to do this, and you get that ad, brother. So how the hell is happening? Where is it still? Where is the technology evolved? So in the end, it's for their purpose. So looks like we are progressing, and we are the pinnacle of the technology. We are in the most advanced civilization we could have living. It's all part of the matrix, right?
Yeah, the illusion, bro. Right.
Something tells me that the purpose or the reason they do all this mind control or whatever it is may have a more sinister plot to it. But if you remember that movie, The Pelican Brief, with Julia Roberts, and her little paper she wrote and said, well, what if it's just good old-fashioned greed? These guys are just trying to make more and more and more money. And sometimes I think it may be just as simple as that. Even NASA faking all of their stuff. They're getting, what, $60 million a day, $25 billion a year. And that money's going somewhere. Maybe it is a slush fund for black ops, but maybe it's just a slush fund for some of the political puppets, or some of the families that control the banks. I don't know, but it seems to resonate with me that it could just be old-fashioned greed with some of this.
Well, in the physical world, that's what it comes down to, I think. But they don't care about the money. They print money. They make the money. They print it. So it's not. It's
not all of them. I mean, yeah, the banks do, and some of the royal families maybe, but not corporations. The corporations are competing against each other, or at least they're giving the illusion that they're competing. Maybe they're not. Maybe
I think BlackRock is Vanguard. Vanguard is BlackRock.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I think that's the almost political, left wing, right wing, same thing. There's no difference. I don't really think so. It's set up to look different.
It's a puppet show for everybody to keep us entertained. You go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, I think there's only one corporation, one country, only one country, one corporation. One football team. It's only one. They own everything. They own the referees. They own the players. They own all the one corporation. All the corporations. It's only one owner, right? They're just playing. Okay, Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola, whatever. It's the same owner, right? The same owner, Los Angeles, whatever, and the Chicago Bulls, the same owner. They're just playing with us. They're just, bread and circles. It's nothing new under the sun, as I said before.
So it should be the same for the dark and light, and the God and the evil, right? So, or no?
Absolutely. Light and dark is the same. Two sides of the same coin, right?
Oh yeah, so let's get back to the topic. Um, so in 1980s, like the first optical submarine cable was invented. Okay, like the telecommunications with high quality and capacity became possible. Like the first transatlantic telephone cable to use fiber optics was TAT-8, like which became operational in the 1988. So we are not speaking of that so long, right? Which could carry like 36,000 calls at a time in comparison to the other cables which could do 36, right? So during the course of like the 1990s, like many more cables were laid, like eventually reaching hundreds of cables today, like reflecting the increased use of internet on this realm.
Yeah, Vika, I think there's a billion miles of cable laid underwater right now. Right? Is that what
Oh
you said
yeah,
before? Like, I
exactly,
forget.
because 1.2
Yeah,
million
a
miles.
million. Okay, million. Sorry. Big difference. Sorry. That's so much.
Yeah, it's lots. It's lots. And it's the main method for international communication. The majority think that it's because of the satellites. It has nothing to do with the satellites, because of these submarine cables. The modern cables use optic technology to carry digital data, like so telephone, internet, private data, traffic, everything. The reliability of these submarine cables are really, really high, because if you really break them, there is no communication. There is no communication. You're gonna stop the whole communication of the earth if these cables, something happens to this cable.
Yeah, right. They set a bomb off down there. That's
No hot words, brother.
Don't
You
give
know,
ideas to terrorist extremists, right? Maybe they will go.
No,
they heard me.
no hot words, my brother. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like
Geez.
the total carrying capacity of the submarine cables is in terabyte per second, no gigabyte, terabyte per second. So
That's the way we are communicating now. We are in 4 different countries, right?
exactly, and everybody's in the chat also from everywhere, right? So all connected.
Zero delay. Beautiful.
I
No,
remember back
that
in the 70s, I used to call overseas from my landline, and there was a lot of echo and delay. It was terrible.
oh yeah, we're speaking about the 80s and the 90s, right?
And think about the 70s as well.
Yeah, exactly.
My grandparents used to live in the north of Argentina, and we call once a week was very expensive. And a lot of delay, a lot of echo, a lot of background noises. It was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in the 80s too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to wait till after 8 o'clock to get the discount. The rest of it costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah,
Exactly.
people.
So in recent years, like many submarine cable installations are growing all over, like higher speed, like and higher capacity communications infrastructure is required to maintain this infrastructure itself, like due to the rapid growth of internet. Like the cables are safest in deep waters, where they can rest on the relatively flat seabed.
Flat.
and are not rubbed against rocks or otherwise at risk of disturbance. So like the deeper, the better. And to the closer to the shores, the cables are buried under under the seabed or under the sand, like for the protection, like which explain why people never see these cables on the beach.
I could picture just the natural motion down there, covering the cables without them doing anything to bury them. Really, right? Am I right or wrong? They don't dig trenches down there to bury these things, do they?
No, no, no. Only near the shores, a little bit
Right,
till it
right.
goes, and then it's on the seabed. It
gets buried itself, right?
Sometimes, but normally it doesn't. Maybe if it's not moved for a long time, maybe it gets buried with the sand a bit, but they're quite thick. These cables are quite thick.
Right. Yeah, they're like about the roundness of a basketball, 10 or 12 inches or so, I think.
More or less, yeah.
Right. That's a monster cable.
Exactly. And there are like thousands of kilometers between one coast and another, and so they are always laid flat, and especially between the Atlantic. If you see it, they're not gonna put it over a curve. These cables is just flat all the way from the Europe to US.
Sure.
Like you can find these cables documents and see the whole topography, how these cables are laid, and it's flat. You have the whole data below with all the information. You can find them.
I remember they were saying they have to use satellites because the continents are going away from each other and these cables are tearing apart, so they need to use satellites. I remember they were saying that in the 80s.
Yeah, just making people things up to the people, because in the 80s the people would maybe believe it, like, yeah, these cables are not working or they are breaking up, so we need these satellites. Pay us, pay more tax.
Yeah, the communication back to time was very expensive. Very.
Yeah, but this is the best part, brother. That's why we say that it's the playing field is flat, is level. Because before everything was communication. Communication was expensive, so only the big companies could do and communicate and have big projects and do everything. Okay, so this whole evolved progress of internet had made the communication so cheap that anybody can, or any people or any group can become how do you say a business, an organization, or company, or right? Anybody can, even a person can, even a group can, even a family can, or a community can now, because of these communications are so cheap. The whole world is in our finger, like in our pocket, with our fingers, through our fingers. So that was not the case in the 80s, 70s, and 90s. So that's why it was so controlled and monopoly of the big companies and the people with money to do these kind of things and have those advantage for any kind of things they did, business, whatever, movie, whatever, so all that has changed now with the internet.
That's true, Vikka. That's a good point. All the big businesses had all that stuff first. The banks, Wall Street, all of those places get it. The universities get it first. Military, a lot of it comes out of the military, so it trickles up and over and down to us eventually.
Exactly. So that's what I mean when I say, like the reason Flatten the Curve was made and the weight was made because of this, because the playing field was level. Everybody had hands on every technology that exists to tell a story, to tell the reality. This wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. That's what I was saying when the playing field is level. Now anybody can, a single person can, a group of people can, a community can, everybody can do anything. Become an entrepreneur, become a business, can reach the world, right? So that's what had happened. Anyway, guys, we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna be right back. What an amazing discussion going on there. Okay, so in 2 minutes.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot and flight instructor. I have had a lifelong love of aviation and aerospace, and when growing up I even fancied myself an amateur astronomer.
Number one, I'm a pilot, and when I used to fly out of Long Island towards Nantucket, bottom line here is they're going to give you some type of formula for every 100 miles. They're going to give you some type of XYZ per kilometer squared.
Been in aviation for 21 years. Anything from helicopters to aerostats to big birds, little birds, fighter jets, things with engines, no engines, big blades, little blades, compressor blades.
I woke up to the truth of the flat earth, shape of the earth, as an engineer and a pilot.
I'm a merchant marine. I've been sailing 15 years. I graduated from the Paul Hall Maritime Center out of Piney Point, Maryland. I primarily sail on container ships, tankers, drill ships, military cargo vessels. You name it, I can sail on it.
Work experience. I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. I had a secret security clearance. There's different levels of security clearance. There's a lower level, then there's a secret, which is what I had.
I'll be providing my in-depth experience of U.S. Navy submarines and how they prove we do not live on a globe Earth. However, due to the nature of my job and the security clearance that I hold, I wish to remain anonymous.
All right, welcome back, guys. We have Gene, Keith, and Harry with us today, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There's Pacing in the Matrix, that's Harry, Cover to Cover with Jeremy Pierce, hey, Effie Nation, hey, Carl Brother, and there's somebody from Facebook, Shirley G, Stephanie Campbell, hey, Stephanie, Magatron, Evelyn Gold, hey, Evelyn, how are you? And then it's Better Than Gold. Hey, brother, how are you? And yes, satellites. So all the cables, like currently in services, use fiber optic technology. Like in the modern era, the telecommunications companies ran like most of the cable. But over the past decade, like American tech giants have started to take more control, so like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they all are building their own submarine cable systems, so they have control over the infrastructure they depend upon. They depend upon it a lot. Definitely. Like Facebook and Google built one of the largest cables to connect Los Angeles and Hong Kong, called the Pacific Light Cable Network, PLCN. Like the high-speed cable is around 13,000 kilometers long. It's around 10,000 miles. Like this cable can move data at a speed of 144 terabytes per second, like which would make it possible to have more than 80 million simultaneous HD video conference calls between Hong Kong and Los Angeles. So Google also built a cable between Oregon and Japan. Facebook and Microsoft built one connecting Virginia with Spain. As I said, there is more than 1.2 million kilometers of cables connecting the continents, to support the demand of the communications, telecommunications, like carriers, mobile operators, multinational companies, governments, content providers, research institutions, rely on these cables to send data all over. Crazy, yeah?
Yeah, it really is.
I think another one of the simple proofs for no satellites is the fact that airplanes get lost sometimes. They just disappear off of the radar. So where did they go? I mean, if it's a satellite, you should never lose an airplane. But, every couple of years or so, we hear about one that just disappeared off of the radar. Well, where did it go?
Yeah,
I
because
think it was
yeah.
Jay in Flatten the Curve. I think he said something about dead reckoning, where they just point their airplane straight and maintain their altitude, maintain their speed, because they're going to lose communication, and then at a certain point they should regain communication when they get back over the land where the towers are.
Dead reckoning, exactly. It's the pilot J.R. Silva speaks about that. Yeah, when they're flying over oceans and seas and places where it's not possible to have towers, they are flying blind. It's called flying blind, just going in that direction because of the compass. That's it.
Yeah, but they have, on the light towers, you have in the sea. They have antennas, and they have towers, they have, silent towers as well. So some areas in the ocean, they have, now. But yeah, as you said, there are blind areas and just nothing there.
Oh yeah, they have buoy too. The buoys with the floating antennas, and yeah, definitely. And also for the ships, and they already have those digital chart system, so it's an electronic chart, which is like having a pre-installed routes, So the GPS is the same thing. What is GPS? GPS is nothing more than a digital map with a compass. That's what it is.
Yeah, and you have no signals as well. How many times I got lost with the GPS before the Waze or Google Maps, and still, some areas there is no signal as well. For a few kilometers.
But yeah, this is the thing, Harry. The people think that if they are in the forest, they should get good coverage because there is no building. It's open, right? And it's make more logic that if you are in the forest or in the nature or in the outback, you should get a really clean signal. But that's not happening. It's because there is no towers or tower near. That is the only reason we are not getting coverage, because it's not because of the satellite, right? So what happens is that all our mobile phones need data for the internet, and for the mobile we need the tower for a phone call, right? So what happens when there's no tower? We don't have reception, right? That's basic, that's understood, right? So our mobile phones also have its kind of a built-in GPS. So it's like a GPS is more like a combination of a compass and a map, a digital map, So, or you can use that GPS or the Google map. It's the same thing, right? So it's using internet data for it to function. But if we download a particular area of Google map and if we save it on our phone, so we can use that Google map without tower or without reception or without internet. Why is this possible? Because in our phone there's a technology which uses that technology, that is an electronic compass and an digital maps. Okay, so why is happening? I don't know if we have already discussed this in some other podcast. It's because our phones are receiving these, how you call it, low frequency vibration from the magnetic north, and it locates us on this flat realm with the north in the center. That's what its GPS is doing. It's a God's positioning system. It's not a geolocation system. It's because of the electromagnetic fields or low frequency vibration that is received through these devices helps us to locate us on this flat plane with the north in the center. So that's what this device is doing. So it's possible to download a map and keep that area on that map in our mobile phone and use it even if we don't have internet.
It's funny that they're sizing it, using the Mercator projection based on, it's all based in reason, but, they just, dazzling us with the Mercator projection as a GPS.
Exactly, because that's how nature works, in reality. And they are saying that whatever is the reason for this GPS to work. Again, the same crap about the satellites.
Yeah, I've been in the jungle. I've been, hiking with my son in between Brazil and Argentina but there's no signal. Only when you get next to the tourist area, you have signal as well. But it's supposed to have satellite signal in the middle of the jungle. Nothing at all. The same in the desert here. When I go to a desert, there's no signal at all, and I got lost a lot of times in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is the thing, bro. The majority just believes, all these indoctrinated people, they just believe what the NASA or these scientists they throw at them. They don't really look into it and how all this technology really works. Because if you dig in and see how all these communications and radio communications and all this internet, how everything is working and moving around, you will see there is no need for satellites. There is no need. So we are not getting a real useful use of the satellites to say maybe it could exist. Nothing. Everything what they are saying is working on ground-based systems, and now they're just flying with the Satellons to make it happen in upper atmosphere. That's it. There's nothing else. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I don't know. There's definitely stuff up there. There's stuff like Sophia, the plane that takes pictures of stuff for weather, but satellites, they say there's 3 different kinds too. There's geosynchronous, MEO, which is a medium Earth orbit, and then LEO, low Earth orbit. And they're claiming that they're up to 12,000 miles up in the air. And that's just out of control. So how fast you got to be going to circumnavigate the Earth if you're 12,000 miles above it? Because LEO is where the ISS is. That's low Earth orbit, and they're traveling 17,000 miles, and that's only 250 miles, 280 miles. So if you're 12,000 miles, how fast are those things moving? And steering and avoiding other things? I don't know. It's a fantasy story. And they've shown us that they used all this technology. They were doing things that needed satellites now before satellites were ever invented.
Oh yeah. because also the weather reports, they used to get it from sending balloons up there,
Right. Right.
and how they used to control these balloons to get that data of the forecast, and that's how they learn to start using Satellons then. And instead of just getting that weather forecast, they started using as flying towers,
Yeah, like Starlink has like 3,000 things floating around doing something. So they're testing out gadgets or whatever. Who really knows what they're doing?
Yeah, but there is this phenomena that we can see sometimes these lines of light together in the sky. This could be balloons, this could be drones, this could be anything, because you don't see them in the day. So maybe you can zoom in and try to see what the hell it is.
No,
Right?
exactly. Right? You don't see them during the day. And again, what did you say, bro? You see these lights. Like, why are they lighting these things up? What do they need lights for? I don't understand that. They don't need lights.
Exactly.
If it's
a communication design, so like device, right, for sending and receiving signals, and forwarding the data.
Right.
But
you might think airplanes, but there's no way they're going to let airplanes fly in a zone like that. So that's out of the question. The FAA has it all under control. They're not going to accidentally let these things crisscross in an airport or something like that, right? It's just not even the same heights and all that stuff. So you can't.
And the funny thing is also, you see them for a few seconds and then it disappears. Why that, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why the hell like that? Where is it disappearing?
Wow, only one side's lit up.
Yeah, you don't see that it actually is like literally going from one end of the horizon to the another. Sometimes you just see some parts, sometimes you just see a little bit. So
I've never seen them personally. I've seen the ISS. I used to get emails from a thing called Spot the Station. It's a website you sign up for, and then emails you when you're able to see the ISS fly past you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a plane, brother. It's just nothing but it's just a plane. That's it,
It doesn't look like it's going 17,000 miles an hour. That's 5 miles a second, guys. That's.
It should zip past your horizon to horizon, brother.
Wow, it should look like a streak of light.
Exactly. And you are watching this the whole way horizon like an old 1960s plane, like a sound like a engine, right? So
no, I never heard anything, but it was not much faster than a normal plane, if at all, really.
Yeah. and the altitude, so there's a big difference with 400 kilometers and 10 kilometers, right?
Right. Oh my goodness, yeah. It's and ISS is the size of a football field at 230 miles away. How could you see a football field that far?
Yeah, exactly. Angular resolution would say there's no way you would ever see that.
Nah.
And the regular satellites are supposed to be so much smaller than the ISS.
Yeah.
So if they're seeing something, yeah, maybe, but it's probably 10 miles away, 15 miles away, maybe. Definitely not hundreds.
Right. And then but you got to consider this, saying that the LEO ones are up to they're 3,650 miles and under. That's 3,600. That's across the United States and then some.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
Yeah, right. No, but serious.
Oh yeah, but there are a few people who try to do that and try to record this ISS, and they can literally just hear it like a plane. Literally, they have videos there actually too.
Have you seen some of the pictures of the ISS are incredible? Can you really take a picture of something moving that far away at 5 miles a second, focus and everything? I don't know. I find that pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, and the last meme I shared in my World Flat Earth Association group, you can see that with this hair, this Samantha with the hair and the stars in the background, and they're literally showing a UFO passing by from the ISS.
That's hysterical, and they ignored it.
Hilarious.
They completely ignored it.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that was a hit meme there, right, or a video. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So another something curious. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Harry. No problem.
No, when you spot, a UFO, say, oh, it was a satellite.
Yeah, you could. I thought it was a James Webb doing a drive-by. Paparazzi.
Oh yeah, the hair thing is really funny. They just give it away so much, like just directly with that hair crap.
And you can
So-
see when she's talking, she misspeaks twice. It looks very scripted. At just for a split second, you could overlook it too. It's very subtle, but it sounds a lot scripted.
Oh yeah, definitely. The other thing I wanted to mention about the submarine cables is that there is no cable between Australia and South America. Curious, right? Why? There's so many cables all over the continents, but these two continents, they're not connected. Why? Because it's in the southern latitudes. The distance are
too far.
Go to the Gleason projection and you will see, that to fly from Argentina to Australia, you have to go through the USA and not, heading west or east.
Exactly. So, and it's a far distance too. They need maybe invest in 3 times more of what their normal expense.
Far.
Yeah, it's really far, and in a way, it proves that that the Earth is flat. Because if it was on a globe, it should be very easy. Australia to South America is just passing over the South Pole, right?
Yeah, transpolar, as they call the flight, transporter flights.
We can get a pilot to do that, I bet you.
Yeah, there is a transporter flight through the North Pole, right? The only pole we have.
Yeah, they would say, "Oh, it's so much expensive. That's why we cannot do this." Yeah, they can do it because it's too far on a flat Earth.
That would be like the route Captain Cook took.
Exactly, how many miles, right?
It would be like 30,000 miles before they started coming back. That's a lot of copper.
All right, so more or less we have an idea about the cables, what's happening and what, and so many people would be wondering about the radio, since it's wireless. So like in this case, like the spectrum is limited, the range and the propagation depends on the frequency bands, like which can range from a few 10 of kilometers to hundreds of kilometers. Like, or in case of the LF or the MF band, like the greatest range is approximately 1,500 kilometers, like almost 1,000 miles. Like, so depending on the atmospheric and the terrain conditions, like the signals or the electromagnetic waves do not travel indefinitely. Like they dim and decrease. Like they dim as the distance increases, like until they disappear.
Like
that's why, yeah, exactly. That's why they need repeater antennas. Repeater antennas, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also the range also depends on the power of the transmitting or receiving antennas.
Yeah, and that's how you got dead zones, because any of the antennas around you aren't strong enough to penetrate the mountain or the buildings that you're around. And,
exactly.
I think they can shut zones off too, actually, because it's just so strange how many schools you go to that you can't get a phone call out, you can't get internet, you can't do anything around the schools. At least it is by me. It's just, I hear it a lot. Can't get nothing by the high school by me. Nothing.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, they put a solar panel 3 feet below the roof on a pole sticking out. So, swear to God, 3 feet below the roof. I'm like, will you look at these people? Will you look at this? Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's very well known that certain waves can bounce off the ionosphere. Like this means that the waves collide with a layer of ionosphere. We could call it ionoslat or ionosphere, whatever you want to call it. And this ionosphere reflects the wave back to the another antenna, So they send this electromagnetic wave at an angle which touch the ionosphere and then goes to the another antenna. That's how they cover larger distance to this kind of tech, Like this ionosphere is called F1 layer, which has been used mostly for radios and dish antennas. So this means that the waves collide with layers on the ionosphere, and the ionosphere reflects back waves from to another antenna. So it continues like this peculiar how do you call that? Peculiarity. Sorry guys, my pronunciation is really bad. So yeah, for long range radio transmissions, so it can be calculated according to the Snell's law, that this is what it means. The Snell's law is like at the angle you put that waves on the ionosphere that reach further to the another antenna or keep continuing going ahead, So.
Right. The higher the angle, the more bounce. The lower the angle, the further the distance, right?
Exactly. And the more towards 90 degrees, going to be more nearer. Right.
You know what this all reminded me of right now is the war between AC and DC with Tesla and Edison. How the DC lost mainly because of the transmitters you needed in between to push the DC around. So AC won the war of electricity because of what we're doing right now, putting transformers and what is it?
The repeater.
Yes, repeater stations all over the place with these with the towers, the 5G towers and stuff like that. Right? I don't know.
Exactly.
Right, correlation. But something else struck me. What ketchup is like one of the horriblest foods you could eat, right? And it's 550 Heinz 57 sauce, and 7 is G. 7 is G is the 7th letter, so 57 is 5G. 57 sauce. They're saucing us, guys, and they're telling us. Yeah, I don't make just odd connections like that, but
yeah,
they're there.
Exactly. So this is the thing. The terrestrial communication have been around for a long time, So, like for example, the Loran, like long-range navigation, developed during the World War II, had a range up to 2,400 kilometers, like using towers at different points and islands to provide coverage for navigation.
Through radio signals, right? Or was it radio signals?
Yeah.
So
radio signals or any communications, or you can even use for even radar, because it's all electromagnetic.
So I'm just wondering where
radiation of different frequencies. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering like where the towers were and how far apart they were and how the radio signals traveled. Don't they travel straight ahead?
It depends in which direction they want to send, right? And there has to be a receiver to go in that direction to cast that, right? Or if they're bouncing it off of the ionosphere to reach more distance,
Right.
So it could be sent to a tower, or if there is not a near, or there is a obstruction, they could use the ionospheric.
Right. Bounce it off the top, come back down.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is it not working across all those miles across a curve though, right? It's going straight across.
Exactly. It cannot curve because all are lines. All are lines, right? If it's bouncing off the ionosphere or sending in a straight line to the towers, it's always in a straight line.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. And what about the Coriolis with these? It seems the faster you go, the more Coriolis you need to take into effect, right?
And more possibility of losing the signal, right?
Lost in space.
Yeah, because atmosphere sometimes can be a hurdle, bad weather, for example, so.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to lock in on a signal that's moving 17,000 miles per hour? I mean, how do you catch?
It's insane, bro. Even just to look at that thing, I would love for everybody to go check that out once or twice, and come back and we'll talk about that or something, because I don't know. I would just like to hear more people talk about what they think they saw flying by that night. Spot the Station, it's called.
Oh yeah, so next time if you're doing purposely, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna see it, and if you can try to record even the sound, that would be great. Yeah,
right, yeah, that would be interesting to see, guys.
Exactly. So since the incremental improvements have been made to this technology in power, range, and efficiency, like the tropospheric scattering is also used. This is what it's called. The actual word is tropospheric scattering. Like they can literally scatter it, like send it up there, and once it bounces, it could scatter in different directions, but always in a line, So the radio waves are reflected by this layer of the atmosphere, which is lowest portion, and makes communication between antennas possible over great distances. That is why we also see satellite dishes oriented in a specific direction to receive the signal.
Yeah, from the other dish that's not moving.
Exactly. There's nothing moving.
Except the signal.
Exactly. So this is how the so-called satellite TV also works, since they are electromagnetic waves. It's the same thing. It's just using different frequencies and different hardwares.
Right. Right. So it's like the illusion of choice.
Oh, yeah. And as I said, the radio waves are also a type of electromagnetic radiation, best known for its use in communication technologies and such as television, mobile phones, and of course radio, right? So that's how streaming works on all these services, that we use on daily basis. Not with satellite in space.
Guys, keep in mind, all these waves we're talking about, they're really light waves that we just can't see, right? We only see 10% of the light that's available, that they say, I guess, right? So there's 90% of light flying around that we cannot see. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Like the television or radio services, that have the word satellite, is perhaps more for an image and marketing issues, for wanting to highlight their fake technological part, but they work with the same transmitting antenna receivers and decoders, so. So it's all hardware, all here ground-based. Everything is ground-based, except the Satellons, yeah. So as we have already seen, like more than 99% of international communications are carried out through these fiber optic cables. The remaining 1% are transmitted by antennas and parabolic reflectors, airplanes, solar drones, towers, and satellites in large balloons. So far knowing this, the idea of floating satellites in space is ruled out. Right, guys?
Yeah, because people still believing in space, still believe in Earth, but yeah, slowly, I think more people are understanding this flat Earth cosmology, right? And once you understand it, you understand that there's no satellites, right? There's no orbit, Some people were saying that, the famous Tertiary civilization, which I call it other humanities, they had floating cities, in the sky. We have to research it maybe for another podcast.
I've heard of them.
Oh yeah. They speaks about flying cities. Yeah, in the Vedic culture, yeah, they speak about Vimanas and all these flying cities too, and a war with two different races and everything. Yeah, but the alien lovers, they hijacked it, and they're saying it's the alien wars. So.
Yeah, the Vimanas were cool. That's how people moved around like a magic carpet. It's interesting stuff.
But if you go to the movie, Avatar, negative priming, you see those, floating territories on the city,
Oh yeah. Definitely, they would have amazing technologies earlier, and especially getting airborne. So
Yeah, that's how they knew how to do things from the air. They had how they got buildings in certain places, perfect locations, dimensions. Can't do it. I don't know. Maybe you could have done it from the ground back then, but I don't know. I think they had ways of flying around, and they had information was it was just different back then. I mean, the Star Force and pyramids, stuff like that. I'm getting at, but they knew how to communicate somehow. The Nazca lines too, right? They're 2 miles long or a mile long or something crazy like that.
Oh yeah.
Right? They had to do that from the air.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Many construction, as we spoke about, why need to have that aerial view before planning it out. Most of the things. So.
Make markers or whatever have you, but not the the accuracy of some of the maps, coastlines and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not a cartographer, but
definitely they didn't have satellites. That's for sure, because the only places that the satellite exists are in images, animations, and in science fiction. There is not a single real image or video of a satellite.
No, but they
on
do
the
have
internet.
They do have videos of what appear to be boxes, what could be satellite falling with a balloon attached to it. And you know what? I want to say that NASA is one of the biggest helium consumers of the entire world, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think they own huge portions of the helium companies.
Yeah, they're the largest producer and the largest consumer of helium. They do produce it as well.
Wow. And do
Yeah.
you know if they own the companies?
They probably do, but in other names. You know, it's not going to have the NASA logo on it. It's going to be some other that they own legally.
I guess.
That's the reason that sounds funny, right? Because of the helium.
Yeah, well, like, what do they want helium like that for? It's for these balloons.
Exactly, because most of their work has been done because of this balloon. Because really, they take a lot of money in the name of satellites, and they're sending all these rockets. One of their main excuses: telecommunications and navigation. The world don't works without these two technologies, and we are sending GPS and these satellites to rocket that they could orbit in the space, and you guys could be stayed connected, and the whole world could navigate and communicate. Oh yeah, everybody's so dependent on that. No, it's all ground based, guys. Everything, all the instruments of communications and navigation are working because of the ground base, and only thing they have floating is those Satellons. And we already ripped it apart also, these Satellons, and how they work, and what are their actual work. It's just flying towers, that's it, nothing else. So and in reality, if satellite exists, why are these balloons there? Why are you taking so much money from the taxpayer saying that you have satellites there? And what the hell are these Satellons for? It's cheaper, it's easier, because that's the only technology is working. That's why you are using that. And the rest is just CGI and animation to take that millions every day. That's it. There is nothing else. There are many globetrotters and trolls who nobody has the to debate about the satellites, okay?
Right.
And all these communications and all these navigations. I'm not a debate person, but if I had to, I tell you guys, man, it's nobody can debate with me with satellites and telecommunications and navigations and how all these systems work. Okay, so before defending satellites, all these globe believers and these globe trolls, do your homework before, and then come and try to say what if the satellite exists or how it all this works, or explain yourself how it works through your satellites. It's not happening,
Yeah, I don't know which one's better, the geosynchronous or the ones that travel around the world. Geosynchronous are the ones that stay hovered. They're the ones that, if it's above you right now, it's above you tomorrow, it's above you.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same crap excuse what they give for the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is just, yeah. So awesome. I've been running more than like 4 years groups, like especially my Flat Earth Association group, where on daily basis I've been speaking and debating, like text debates or with Glovers, and which only helped me to understand more better how it works, So the same thing, if we speak about the communications they do with these Voyagers, what the hell how are you sending electromagnetic waves through a vacuum? Because these electromagnetic waves and radiation need electromagnetic fields to move, and that's not happening.
That's right.
So how they're sending radio communications or images and sending and receiving and orders and controlling all these fake robots through the vacuum of space and receiving back this information. Explain. Come on, guys. Come on, Globetrotters, come and speak and say, how are you doing that? Because even NASA itself admits, they come up with fancy word with Doppler effect and blah, 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 of extending the signal. The because what they're trying to send is the same. It's radio signals. That's it, and it's not happening in the vacuum of space.
Nothing happens in a vacuum. It says nature abhors a vacuum. That means nature will fill a vacuum naturally. That's all there is to that. There is no vacuums, man-made, and they don't even come close to the real vacuum of what they're calling up in the sky. Here's a question: they got vacuums in that big round room. They suck all the air out of it. How come they got no people in there? It's only like a portion, like a 10th or a 20th of what the real space is like. They got guys out there fixing the ISS all the time.
Millions of people consuming food, made of vacuum, right? And they have vacuum machines. They don't think that it's impossible to have vacuum out space because we've been always sucked by the vacuum, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, programming.
It's a simple empirical, experiment. They're experimenting every day when they open a, potato chips bag, right?
Every house has a vacuum.
Yeah, they contradict their own science by making up more BS. That's what they do, and that's the problem with the whole global situation. Actually, with everything, because everything they say contradicts to the other science they try to say. So.
Yeah, and then they turn it into ridiculous, crazy equations that people can't do. Can't understand that stuff. And it doesn't even apply to life. Like E equals MC squared. They square the speed of light when they call it the speed of light, the golden speed limit of everything. You can't go faster than the speed of light. So there's contradiction right there. Everybody knows that equation too, right? Everybody. Means nothing.
Oh yeah. So this is the thing, if you really search for the images, there appears to be animation, composition created by computers, So this is the thing, as we were speaking about, if this freaking satellite exists, why mobile phones don't work in desolate areas like mountain jungles, rural areas, the coast, because the cell phones rely on, as we spoke about, at the towers, and the triangulation is very important. There's a triangulation happening in every of these communication and navigation technologies. Is that triangulation is happening?
Right. That's why the towers got to be so close to each other now. That's why there's towers all over the place.
Exactly, and even the VORs in the in the aviation, the VOR also are towers, which kind of doing the same thing, but it's giving a kind of a way for the airplanes to connect to one tower to another and complete its route.
Exactly.
But it's the same thing. It's doing the same job of sending and receiving those signals of one point to another.
I have a question for people that doesn't believe on flat Earth. If they have satellites, why we have G5 towers every 2 miles, and cities are packed up with those towers and antennas? Why? If you have satellites, satellite internet and satellite, phone, phone. Sorry, I have a problem here with my dog. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
He's getting to my office, the dog, and I had to take him out. We have phones and can capture, satellite signals. Why you have so many antennas? Why you have so many towers? People never question that thing.
Exactly, and these cell phone towers also. Why the hell have they if there are satellites?
No, those towers have an enormous multitude of capabilities. The frequencies they can turn those things on to are just outstanding. Countless.
Exactly. Yeah, it could reach from all this far away from the space to us and reach our building and wouldn't go on the ground floor.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
if this
that's crazy. You go to a building or to an elevator, you have no signal, right? Or basement.
exactly, it made it way all the way from thousands of miles, and it cannot, because if it was really true, if the satellite really existed, then you would have a signal anywhere on Earth, and it won't be lost because it's so high.
Right. It'd be perfectly clear too.
Yeah, then they would come with the excuse, no, it's too far, it's too high.
Yeah, but
And
then
the
the whole thing,
radiation.
the whole thing would be useless at that point. If one person lost a signal for any reason, it would be useless for everybody.
Yeah, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
People don't. I don't know. In 2014, when I was just walking in the jungle and trying to get some signal, and no signal. Oh, what the fuck? I have a satellite internet, in my package, and there's no signal. It's crazy, Back that, before I I started understanding, or catching a glimpse of the flat Earth, I was, struggling.
Oh yeah, like the origin of satellites like come from the mind of the famous science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke. So Arthur C. Clarke.
And
Yeah, in 1945,
he was involved with Werner von Braun and Walt Disney, and all those guys back in the 50s. Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke was big, a big contributor to the moon landing, and that whole entertainment field right there.
exactly, because in 1945 he put a proposal for the geostationary satellite communications.
Right.
Like this, then this idea continued to appear in science fiction books, and later in the movies, until it occurred to them to take it to a staging of reality and creating satellite out of science fiction, because all the other systems were working. They just try to put it up in the upper atmosphere. That's it, and make it. Also in 1968, like Stanley Kubrick made a movie of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Right.
From Clarke's novel of the same name.
That's Hollywood's job, right, bro? They're there to soften us up to these horrible ideas.
Exactly.
Right, and make it more common.
Exactly. It could be assumed that 2001: A Space Odyssey was a rehearsal before the Apollo mission.
Right. But when they got back from the moon, one of these guys said there's a long interview, the full entire interview with the very first press conference they did. He's backstage or whatever, getting ready to do the interviews and be questioned. And he says, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to share this great adventure we had." And it's striking because great adventure, 6 Flags on the moon, 6 Flags, great adventure. It's just another weird connection. But they just put this stuff in your face all the time. It is all the stuff they say in the movies. It's all just softening us up to what's coming.
Absolutely, brother. And this is the thing. If there were so many satellites supposedly orbiting this spherical globe Earth and sending probes to Mars, why aren't there full images of Antarctica, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's too cold down there. Wait a minute. It's 400 degrees colder on Mars. Different world. Don't have answers.
Exactly. They only have strange images with blank and incomplete digital parts, are seen on virtual globes.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat earlier mentioned, why don't we ever see any images of the satellites from the ISS? Any of the footage of the Earth from space, you never see images of satellites in that.
Exactly. Or in their spacewalk, we should see at least few, if not thousands, right? At least few of them.
Yeah, at least the sun reflecting off of them or something. But we see nothing at all.
Zero anyway. And look at the mileage, the mass amount that you can see of the Earth being covered from that. And but a lot of them are higher than their ISS too, though. So that it's not like all of them are underneath it.
Oh yeah, silly me, I forgot.
Well, but still, no, there's nothing there, bro. But like Vikka said, he showed one of the Italian girls who's supposedly up there. She's sitting by the window, talking about how she loves looking out the window in her free time, and there goes that light buzzes by her, and nobody says a thing. We did. We all attacked it and made fun of it, and what is that? But they didn't say peep about it. Could you imagine that? You know what that reminded me of? The gravity pocket. The guy's in the ISS holding a hammer and a card, and he says, gravity's funny when you're up here because there isn't any around, but once in a while you hit a gravity pocket, and he drops the card, and really comical stuff. I bet a lot of guys seen that already, but so yeah, I can't believe.
They do lots of magic tricks. Lots of magic tricks in the ISS.
Oh, God, man, come on. That's just crazy. And the guy's wearing a snake on his chain, too, by the way. Snake pendant.
Oh, didn't notice that part.
And, yeah, there's a snake there.
As I said, NASA is a true source, a genuine source of comedy we could have. I don't watch comedy stuff. I just need to look what NASA is doing, and I have a good laugh, brother. So
it is funny, but so I was talking to someone recently, and I'm like, but yeah, it's only 0.05 of the budget, but that's not the point. Look at what they could be doing down here with that. Look what they're taking from the people down here. Talk about it like it's really up there. That's what's aggravating now, and it's just a shame what they're doing. It's such a shame. Very disappointing.
Oh yeah, definitely, brother. And this is the thing, So how do satellites survive 2,200 degrees Celsius in the space? How the hell is happening? Are they again contradicting their own science, right? Isn't it hot up there according to these guys, right? According to us, it's not hot there. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. What the proportion? Propulsion and fuel, because they're not, solar panels. What about the night? People don't think about it,
They use what they call a hydrazine-based fuel, whatever that is. Yeah.
They have space gas stations in there, right?
Oh man.
Exactly, because there's. Yeah, go ahead.
How are they powered? How are they, how are they getting up to speed? Really? What's right? What brings them?
And the maneuver, how they maneuver, how they do that, how they orient themselves first. Yeah. What is up and down on left and right in the space, right?
Exactly. Well, they claim that gravity just goes on forever. As little as it is, it does not stop. Saw that today. Looking around, gravity does not stop ever. It dims and gets less, or whatever you want to call it, gets faint. I was like, wow, these people are just so out of control. Yeah.
Exactly, bro. And this is the thing, the satellites are supposed to be mostly in the thermosphere, where the temperature can rise to those degrees, as I mentioned before, So there are. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't it like what's the degree swing between daytime and nighttime when you're out in those parts of the? air in the atmosphere. It's like a 300-degree swing of temperature overnight. No.
Exactly. There's a different like fluctuation, like totally opposite, extremes, in moment.
Yeah, and how can it handle? How can it handle either one, 200 below or 200 above? All right.
Exactly. So, because this is the thing, there's also only like around 7 elements in the periodic table that could withstand that heat, and none of that have been used for satellites, So, for example, if you look companies that are involved in the satellite business, you can see that the majority of the shareholders behind these companies are the Rothschilds, right?
That makes sense.
The thing is like, in the thermosphere, this gravity, right? If you go into the glove model, so how they can sustain themselves there without falling down? If you have thousands of satellites, maybe every month 1 or 2 satellites are just falling down. It never happens, right?
Yeah, it happens, but only the one with the solar panel and the balloon. They fall a lot.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm talking about the.
Yeah. I'm just making a joke, brother.
I'm talking about the fantasy ones, right? Not the real ones.
Okay.
They say that
nice one, Harry. Go ahead, JD.
That hydrazine-based fuel is extremely toxic. So if you run into one, don't go near it.
Can you imagine, being in the thermosphere and trying to refill, fuel there? It's explosions all over the sky. We will see every day.
Exactly.
Do they ever need maintenance? They just, I guess, no. Does that stuff just run forever? You turn a computer on, it can do its thing forever as long as it's being fueled.
Yeah, once what is sent, actually, a movie with technicians, going in the sky and trying to fix, satellites. And of course, they're doing it on swimming pools, right?
Exactly, and I think it goes on forever in the fantasy land, because the money's been taken. So yeah, it's rotating up there. Imagine that it's rotating up there. Enjoy the sci-fi, right?
So the conclusions, about this topic is people have to question everything, even while we're talking here. People doesn't have people don't question, like when you go to school, science is not something you can discuss or question to a teacher. You have to accept it. People are accepting everything, right? So tomorrow Disney World will send you, a new kind of a Mickey Mouse, and people will accept it. This is the truth. A Mickey Mouse on a satellite.
Pluto. Yeah. Pluto and Pluto were both created and discovered in the same year.
Exactly. And this is the thing, as I mentioned, like powerful elite groups that are behind, who control the whole this game of satellites, So, and as I also mentioned that there are types of unmanned aerial platforms capable of staying in the sky for months, and that acts as a satellite, or the ISS,
Yeah, I think NASA has one, a huge one that stays up there for months. That's all solar power. I believe the name of it is Helios.
That's hysterical. Helios.
Exactly. So this is the thing, the airplane solar drones, circling over the same place for months, or the Satellons in the stratospheric balloons, that can be flying for several months at a higher altitude, like between 20 to 30 kilometers, since they don't need energy to stay in the air, depending on the type. They may need power for their motors, if they want to stay in precise position and not drift due to the winds. Even without engines, they can attempt to remain nearly stationary by changing their altitudes to catch the winds that are propelling them in the right direction.
Yeah, and the way the jet stream and the winds work on the flat Earth model is perfectly symmetrical, it seems like, and the jet stream on the globe model is like this big zigzag up and down. But they know what reality is. They know how those winds work and how the jet stream works, so I think they can at least control the altitude of those balloons up and down and kind of keep them about where they want to. And it's real rare for them to crash the Earth. I think most of the time they intentionally, when their time is done up there after 2 or 3 months, whatever, I think they intentionally crash them far out in the ocean where nobody would ever see them.
Yeah, and they call that the satellite graveyard of South Pacific, right? They got half the globe model is the Pacific Ocean, nearly half.
Exactly.
So
right, and Keith, as you were saying also about how they moved between the altitudes to change their direction and stay in the area they want to, and some are also guided by lasers, and they track each other and stay in the place they want to be. Yeah, it's much more evolved. There's Satellon technology that does exist.
Yeah, they've been doing that for decades. It's been going on, I think, since the 70s. So God only knows what they are actually capable of with those. But when they're 25 miles up, and even if it's as big as a football field, we would never see it. We would never be able to see something 100 yards wide that's 25 miles away.
Nah. Think about it. When you're on the road and you can see the sign that says 1 mile away, if you're a little higher, let's say you can see the mountain across from you 2 miles away, can you see a sign? Those signs are like 12 feet tall or something like that. So
right.
there's ways to judge that stuff and what you can really see and how small things get from distance when you're driving. So keep that in mind, guys.
Or just the jumbo jets too, at a maximum.
Right.
They're only 7 miles away and they're like a tiny little speck.
Right. That too, yeah. I like. It's a good way to judge your distance from things. It's kind of fun too to say, "Oh, that sign is a quarter mile away." Oh, and then when you drive under it, it's like this, the side of a building almost. Those signs are pretty big on highways and stuff. I'm talking about, right?
Exactly, it's a big red flag. How can you see something from 400 kilometers? Are we Superman? Even telescopes. It's so difficult to see, and with the speeds we are speaking about, so.
You even wonder about the moon being 238,000 miles. That's what they say, but.
Oh, yeah. So this is the thing. The solar-powered untethered balloons are the most useful designs, because all these vehicles are used for aerial photography, services we see on the maps, the radars, the optical observations, the signal intelligence, the weathers, the telecommunications, the internet, the mobile telephony, so there's a thing, it's just acting as a cell tower 20 kilometers high. That's it, in the air, and providing an almost perfect coverage in a range of up to 200 kilometers every Satellon.
From one to the next, they could be 200 miles apart, or
200 kilometers, around 100,
110.
Yeah, or 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, so that offers like easy and fast way to cover remote or specific regions. Also also in military network surveillance and many other applications. So it's a useful tech, which they say that the satellite's doing, but it's this what it's doing,
Right. And like you said before, it's a big money slush fund, because that what they're saying is these satellites cost between 10 and 400 million each to launch and have going and create and everything behind it. And
exactly, as you said, Gene, you remember, need to know basis, right? So if they're taking one tech from one company and they're taking another tech from another company, and they are controlling the information, so they could be taking money from the telecommunication companies and saying that they're using satellites to get all this coverage, and they're using the real ground technologies or satellite technologies to actually get the job done. And the people are paying these hundreds of millions for these satellites to maintain them, to send them up, to make them, so it's all business, right?
Right.
And the one who controls the information controls the big money, right?
So true, bro. And that
taking from every side. You need the coverage. We have the satellite, and to the company of satellite, you need the companies. We have the companies. You have the satellite. So it works like that. So go ahead.
I'm just trying to take it all in.
So there are at least 18 different platforms that can be used independently or in groups, to provide all these services by the satellite. And they can certainly be misperceived as satellites by the public, which we have always mistakenly thought are floating in space, but they are not. So we could say, yes, if there are devices flying in the sky that are power off, so only 1% of the telecommunication technology used worldwide, so the other 99 is through submarine cables. That's an absolute fact, like there's no point in continuously risking and launching satellites into the space if more cost-effective, reliable, and easy to maintain ground systems already exist, which is true.
Right. It was there already.
Oh, yeah. And they say there are more than 2,600 satellites supposedly orbiting in operations right now, and in total, with those that are no longer operate but are still floating there, are around 4,900 objects.
Right. Yeah. 3,000 of them are no longer in operations. About 3,000.
Exactly, and they say that they're going to continue launching even more.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. For what?
Yeah.
What are they doing? For what now?
And in addition, there are up to 370,000 pieces of space debris flying at the speed of 35,000 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, and they
between all this, yeah.
And they claim that anything above 10 millimeters, I think it is, or maybe even 2 millimeters. They're keeping track of it all. They're keeping track of it all. What does that cost to say that? Just not that they really are, but just to say that, we got teams keeping track of all the debris. Yeah, it costs how much a day does it cost to say that, right?
Exactly, and so, and as you said, each piece is costing up to $450 million. That's almost $500 million each, plus another million for the launch, or another million for monitoring, so
20 million to dump it in the ocean.
Yeah, everything is like a round deal, you know.
Terrible.
So where all this money goes, you know. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna be having a last thoughts on today's topic, and we're gonna be wrapping it. Definitely, satellites is totally a hoax, totally a BS, totally a science fiction fairy tale for the grown-ups. You know, see the technology, what's really making sense and working right there in front of you. Everything is working perfectly, you know, without the satellites. Communications, navigations, everything. All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go. The only thing I didn't mention tonight is one of the facts of the military and the aircraft carriers. If there were satellites, I don't think they would need those 1960s and 70s airplanes to send out for reconnaissance. We didn't really mention spy planes at all, but why would we need spy planes if they're satellites? And yet we spend, millions of dollars on spy planes. And then you've got these, I think the one aircraft carrier is worth about $13 billion. And they're protecting that with old aircraft from the 1960s and 70s. So there's no satellites. I mean, I'm looking at the full moon right now, talking to you guys, and I had my P1000 shooting it last night, looking at it. Nothing travels between us and the moon because there's nothing there. But good night, guys. It's good to be with you again. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh yeah, awesome, brother. Nice point. You know, if they have satellite, why these spy planes and all these surveillance and all these, as we mentioned, also with the Satellons, right? And same thing. So it's crazy. Yeah, and amazing. The full moon today is beautiful. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll say goodnight. I can't see the satellite story being really true. Not the way that they're saying it. Like, there's some stuff up there. They need to cover vast areas, but like we're saying, just the fact that you lose signal in strange areas and across in jungles and deserts and mountains and stuff. We should all have signals all the time for everything. I wonder if you get your app games out there in the mountains. You get anything silly, not the important stuff. But I had a good time. It was a great conversation, guys, and thanks everybody for being here. And I hope you have fun out there in the chat. Good to see everybody, all my brothers and sisters out there of truth. Stay with it, and keep your radar on. All right, Vikka, thanks for throwing the show, brother. I had a great time, and I was looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun, bro. Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely, brother. Yeah, we almost ripped out the whole satellite science fiction hoax, you know. So people can literally see how it works, how things were working, how things are working, and we really don't need satellites. So yeah, brother, awesome. Harry?
Yeah, I just want to say something funny. About 10 years ago, I had a friend who is a pilot, right? He denies flat Earth, okay, but he used to fly every day into enemy countries, and it was a team of photographers, taking pictures of all the countries all the time. And innocently, I told him, if we have satellites, this country have a lot of satellites, why need you to fly every day and take pictures, from, military bases and stuff like that? They can do it through the satellites. And he told me, I have no idea why, just obeying, orders. I didn't, but that back the time I didn't think about, the satellites are fake. But it was intriguing me all the time, why that had to happen. And I see those planes because I'm living near the border, right? And I just listening and hearing those planes every day. So good night, everyone. It was a great pleasure to be here with you. And see you next week.
Vikka.
Oh, sorry. So this is the thing. Thanks, Harry. And my mic was off and I was speaking. So thanks for getting me back, Gene. So this is the thing. What these people are doing is like, they're giving jobs to everybody to keep the confusion going, the matrix going. The people who are doing the surveillance and photographs with their planes are doing their job, and the ones who are making their fake satellites are doing their job, and the people who are controlling are just having them in the picture by keeping the matrix going, that everybody's doing their job. But nobody knows the real truth, so that's what is really happening. So thank you, Harry, for being there, brother. And yes, people, this is the thing, deep sea cables, towers, Satellons, all are just doing the same job of moving the electromagnetic radiation, which are the signals which can be transmitted to different frequency with different hardwares in different ways, tropospheric scattering, the Loran, even for the navigations, the radars, the same thing is happening, and you need that flat plane to work on, you need that atmosphere to work on. So most of the thing, how it actually works without the help of satellites or any use of satellites. And as I always said, the day we find a real use of satellite, maybe we would think maybe there's something there, but till date there's nothing which really shows that it functions with the help of satellites. We have all the the real technologies we've been working from a long time, and it's still working, and it's getting better with day by day, but it's still the same. It has nothing to do with satellites. So thank you guys for being there, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Harry and Keith. And yes, everybody in the chat. See you guys next week in another episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. Bye, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Cheers.
Houston, we have a problem.